Powered by Riverside.
Hello and welcome back to You Know What I Like? Theater!
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't told everybody like why we like this as a title. Do you want to tell them the story about how the title came about?
Yeah, so that was the show that back when Bri and I were young kids at college, I directed her in a show, and we had a member of the cast who, for 90% of the show or so, would sit in the middle of the audience with like a drape around his seat, and in between scenes, a light would come up on him, and he would like react to something that had happened on stage. And I found out the night that I sat in the audience right next to his booth that he liked to talk to the audience members as they were coming in, because I sat down and I heard him say, "You know what I like? Theater." And just that has stuck with us ever since as a thing.
So we
Leia?
hope Jack Bennett in Los Angeles knows how much we talk about him on a daily basis.
Yes, Jack Bennett in LA. If you run into him, he says, "Hi, I'm Jack Bennett." You say, "Ah, you know what I like? Theater."
Yes, there are so many people that come in and touch our lives, and then we have sound bites of them forever. And we always say
Yes.
that's the greatest tragedy of being a human being, is you have the greatest repository of experiences that only you get to experience and not the world. So, you know,
Yes.
maybe now Jack Bennett will live in infamy to everybody who listens to this podcast, and they will say, "You know what I like? Theater." Anyway, love you. Thank you so much for the podcast title.
Yes, thank you so much.
So the next show we're going to talk about is way different than our last show, which was a little improv, comedy troupe that had much more creating things on the fly. It's different every time. We went from that, which I think would be 0 to 60, which is the Virginia Theater Festival. Been here for like 20 some years, really long time. And it's part of the UVA MFA, like type of school type of program. It's like really sponsored by University of Virginia. It's held on the University of Virginia grounds. And its goal is to bring professional New York City actors, theater, stuff like that to Charlottesville for the summer and provide that to the community. And what's kind of nice is some years they always hire 1 or 2 local actors, and it's always higher. They always pay them, which is great, which is like something we really like. It's not just, hey, let's just volunteer. This is, you can make a living. They expect you to get a paycheck and do this over the summer. So it's really a whole different model, a whole different experience. It is something that is still funded by different sponsors and stuff like that, but its goal has always been, let's bring in the people from New York. Let's bring in the people from DC, people who do these Broadway shows, people who do Broadway tours. And then if you're lucky, you'll be one of the few people that gets to act with them. But on the show we're going to be talking about has had more local actors than ever before, which is why we really wanted to go see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And from my understanding, and I might be incorrect about this, I don't know, I'm not a part of the program, but my understanding is this is supposed to be like the pilot year for this is how they want the shows to run from now, is that Virginia Theater Festival always has 2 of these shows running that are professional actors from out of town, and they're like, we want to start having one of those shows that's like, yeah, this is the professional actors from out of town. And then one show that's like, this is still professional actors from out of town, but we're inviting more of the community to come in and be a part of it. We're making it more of a combination of community talent with professional talent from out of the area.
Yeah, I love a good competition. I love a good giveaway. And so when we stopped seeing the show, like when we saw the show, next morning they said, "Hey, we'll give you a swag bag, a tote bag full of Virginia theater stuff if you let us know what you liked and what you didn't like." And of course, I had to jump in on that. I'm making a whole podcast. Of course, I had to tell them directly. And I said, I loved all the local talent. Like
Hmm.
there were actors that we know personally that we're really excited to see on stage, as well as oh, I should tell you, the name of the show is Disney's Newsies before I get into a specific that references that. Um, there is a educational theater group called DMB Adventures, and their whole class, their whole group of kids were the Brooklyn Newsies. And so I was like, I love that. I mean, we've seen plenty of these shows where it's one or two people that we know locally and we're excited to see them, but to see half the cast and people in featured roles who are
Yeah.
local was like something I said, please do more of. I'm so excited by this. Like, this is something that's like, yes, I love the outside talent. And I think I explained it to my mom of like, yeah, somebody who has a part on Law and Order, and they're not like Christopher Melonio, but they're like Dead Body number 3 or DA 16 or something like that. I said, and that is like no shade. I would kill to be Dead Body number 3 on a show.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but it was one of these things where it's like, it's not going to be somebody, it's going to be somebody you recognize, but it's not going to be somebody whose name is probably a household name, but they have been working in New York or LA or DC or Chicago, someplace really big or doing big touring things. And this is their job to interact with people who are local performers that it might be their job. We do have a few people that just act and that's it. But for the most part, have another job, dream of acting, went to acting school. So I said it's a great educational opportunity for those little kids. And it's a great networking opportunity for people who are like, look, I went to Virginia Tech, I went to UVA, I went to JMU, I went to VCU, and I want to get into this. How do I do that? And to make those types of connections and to be on equal footing, I think is amazing. And I love that. And I said, please, I want to see not just two people, I want to see like this, more like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the difficult things with any educational theater program, is finding the right balance of, well, it's a great opportunity for us to have people come into the community and bring in like professional experience and development and things like that. And still being like, yes, but our students don't get anything from it if we don't actually get them to be exposed to it. So I feel like having a show like this where you say, we're making a concerted effort to try to make roughly half the cast out of town professional talent and half the cast local developing talent, is really important for educational institutions like the UVA theater program to focus on making sure that when we bring in professionals from out of the area, it isn't just we're bringing them in and they're going to help us sell tickets and bring in money for the program. It genuinely is, and this is a professional level experience now that our students get to have, and they get to network with their fellow performers who are out there already earning a living out there.
Yeah, this show has so much juicy meat to get to that I have not done the basic introduction of the show and what it costs and where we went and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get back to that. You got to keep me on track as well. So this is the Virginia Theater Festival, July 9th, 7:30 p.m. So very traditional showing, very kind of traditional what you would expect from a theatrical experience. It was hosted in the Culbreth Theater on the UVA grounds, and I had a bit of a nitpick because I love the Ruth Kaplan. I've never been in the Ruth Kaplan, and we saw a musical there, and I was like, "Oh, is it going to be in there?" And they're like, "No, the musical's going to be in this one." And I love Culbreth, don't get me wrong, but it is the older theater, so it's one of those
Hmm.
things. So I was like, "Aha, nuts!" But we'll get to some other good things of why that was the perfect place for it. I will say, you know my complaints about this, Glenn. So I'm going to be a bit of a broken record to you, but for all of our listeners and viewers, the cost was very high. And I don't
Hmm.
remember it ever being this high before because we went to go see Cabaret a couple years ago. Like I said, we saw another musical theater that was just through UVA, and I don't remember it being this high. And in fact, I work with a lot of students, and I said, you have to tell me, what do you pay for tickets? And apparently this is what it is.
Yeah.
And because it is such a huge cast, they're paying everybody and very high production values. The sets were amazing, but we'll get to
Hmm.
that in the pros. It was $100 for one night out for two
Yes.
adults for 3 hours, but parking was free.
Yeah. And you know that is the rough balance sometimes, is that it's like, look, $100 for a night out for two people just to see the show, not to include like drinks and dinner and anything like that. Here in our little area of Virginia, is that's it's a little on the expensive side, but it's still kind of like, it's a lot, but let's pay it. Someone in New York here's $100 for two tickets to a professional show, and they're like, "How the heck is everybody getting paid?" You know?
Yeah.
It,
And I think that that was kind of the hard thing because we're also really used to both of us being staff. Sometimes you get a little staff discount.
mhm.
So I just remember when I said I really want to go see the show because I had just been in Emma as a comedic bit character, which is like my favorite role to play. Like if I could be the next, Carol Burnett, it'd be amazing.
Yes.
So I was like, no shade to comedic bit characters. I love being a character actor. I love being a belter. So, but my friend and your friend was in it, and I
Mhm.
said, oh well, we gotta go see Joey. We're so excited. He's worked so hard. He's getting paid. He's an amazing talent. And when I went to go buy tickets, and we were looking it up in the car, I was on my phone, and you're like, so we're sending Joey a nice note saying we're not going, right? Because that's like 1/3 of the grocery bill.
To be clear, 1/3 of the grocery bill for the month, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
That is yeah, and it's one of those things. Look, we could get into all of this. What it comes down to, though, is that you're doing a show. This is Disney's Newsies. You're doing a show that is about, hey, they just marked the cost of 100 newspapers for the newsboys up from 50 cents for 100 to 60 cents for 100. That's outrageous. We're all going to starve. And the tickets are $50 a piece for people to come and see it. It's, how do you square the necessity to pay everybody and the fact that you're doing a show that's about, well, nobody makes enough money off of anything.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a friend of mine at the show we saw last night, and I said, it's a secret. It's worth it. It's an
Mhm.
amazing show. I felt they got me $100 worth, but also you got to get the $100. And I said,
Yeah.
for a show about labor rights and labor abuses, I was just like, there's some irony here. I'm sure Alanis Morissette could say it better than I can in song.
Well, and I'm trying to avoid getting my first naughty before we're even really out of the gate here. But it's a topic that I always hit on, which is like, look, it's $100, and we're sitting here complaining about how expensive it is. $100 helped pay everybody on that stage.
Yes.
$100, honestly, for the show we saw, $200 would not have been that extreme for the level of professionalism we saw on stage, for
Right.
the hard work that went on that stage. And the flip side of that is, we should be at a point in our society where dropping $200 on two tickets is nothing. It's like buying a McDonald's cheeseburger almost. And that's the real labor problem that needs to be addressed in the broader world, is that pay has not kept up with what things are actually worth.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the hard thing. It's like I would like things to be more accessible. So I'm gonna give a little description about everything, but I think we have like a
Sure.
fantastic part of conversation here. So how I would describe Disney's Newsies, and you can do your little add-ons and additional comments. As I said, this is a
Sure.
traditional musical theater experience with
Hmm.
professionals, actors, directors, and artists brought in from New York City and across the country. Heavy additional casting of local talent, including all featured roles, including our Joey playing Teddy Roosevelt,
Yes.
and all the kids from Brooklyn coming out of the local theater training program from DMV Adventure. So that was kind of like what I felt it was. Um, wide variety of audience members there. We
Yeah.
sat around a couple of older folks and dads and
So
moms with their kids in the show, and theater was packed. I mean, there were still some empty seats, but I mean, people were buying. People
yeah.
also thought it was worth it. So overall, I was like, it was, what I think you would have expected a touring Broadway show to be. And just for full disclosure, they don't come to Charlottesville, they go to Richmond. And so to be able to be local and see basically a touring company with your kid, I was like, that would be thrilling. That'd be amazing
Yeah.
for the kid and the parent.
Absolutely. And it's a phenomenal opportunity for everyone who's in the show, and it's an opportunity for everyone who sees the show. I think I have no additions or extra notes to what you use to describe the show. So
Yes. Well, and our favorite thing to see in the Virginia Theater Festival, to be honest, are the musicals.
Mhm.
That's if I have to buy one ticket out of the straight play, the musical, and the featured performer, I'm going to buy the musical every time. It is just my personal passion. I told Glenn, I said I wrote a version of Newsies off the movie when I was like 15. I know. I was like, this is before Disney knew Western Pennsylvania existed.
Yes.
So I said, so obviously I was a high buy-in to the
Mhm.
audience for this show. I was really excited about it. And surprisingly, I've never seen it. I know it's been out for a very long time, but it was never something I could get up to New York to see. I know we've been a part of a couple of groups that had performed it after we left that town and moved somewhere else. So, it's something that's going to be popular. And it
Mhm.
definitely was popular with a wide variety of different audience members. And I think it was the right choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, if you're looking for a show that's going to provide experience with intricate choreography, but it's also going to give you good character work and things like that. This is a good show for it. This is a good show for hitting that balance of every aspect of the show is important. Nothing can be left behind in this show.
And this is like a little bit of an outside pro because it's not something I normally focus on the pro of the show. But on the feedback form, they said, "Oh, how did you see it?" And I was like, you know what? Their social media team is really good. I saw it a whole bunch of places. I saw it in ads, I saw it on TV, on radio, on Instagram. So I said, like, I don't traditionally talk about marketing as a pro, but I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that marketing is something we should start talking about as pros when it is good, because we're reaching a point now where it is harder and harder to reach audiences with here is what you need to go out and see. We talk about this all the time because for those of you who are not familiar with me, in addition to spending my time with the lovely Bri Lasky and going and seeing live theater, I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about movies. And we were talking recently, because we go to a lot of movies together, about how many movies hit our theaters locally where we look at the listings and we haven't seen trailers, we haven't seen
Yeah.
promotion for it. And that's Hollywood with billions of dollars being poured into marketing every year. It's like it's a combination of people have forgotten how to market effectively, and people no longer have the venues to market effectively that they used to. So I think, yeah, great marketing in terms of this show, and we should call out good marketing when we see good marketing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think two movies that I can think of in recent memory that you're like, oh, let's go see them, that have shorter lifespans than even theaters. Because, like I said, oh,
Hmm.
it's really hard to go out and see theater because it plays maybe 4 days a week and they're all
Yeah.
in the evening for the most part, and it runs for about a month. That's not that many shows. If you're lucky, you get 20 shows out of 30, and it's usually a lot less than that. But the two movies that I think that you're thinking of is like we heard about Tuner and Power
Hmm.
Ballad like almost too late, where we're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, let's go see it. And then I think the next weekend it was already out. So I mean, at least I feel like with local theater, you do have 3 to 4 weeks to try to get people to come out. You still have kind of like a limited number of seats you can sell, but I have found that that is like a huge struggle when we go see movies where we're like, if you blink, it's gone.
Yeah. You hear about a movie the weekend that it's released, and you don't have time to go see it that weekend. The next weekend, it may be gone because the throughput is so fast now that if something doesn't hit right away, it's out.
Yep. Well, let's get into the pros and cons of
Yes.
Disney's Newsies. So I really want to talk about the atmosphere. They
Mhm.
had really fantastic music in the lobby. It was all from like the 1910s, which is what it was set. So they really made an effort to try to make it as an immersive experience. I also really liked in the lobby, they had a kid station to color, to get fidget spinners, to stickers. I took some stickers too. I love the stickers. It's a little newsboy holding up the local paper. Amazing. It's going to go in my water bottle. And then when we got in the theater, you could tell they had a really experienced dramaturg because they had all of the real Newsies,
Mhm.
boys, girls, all different ethnicities. I mean, it was just like one of these things, like you could tell that a lot of love and care had been kind of put into the planning of this. And, I am sure this was not something I experienced. So I feel like it's when you walk into a store and they say, oh, did somebody help you or did you not experience that? I did not go over to the bar and the snacks. They were available. We talked about last time we were looking for food. They did have fantastic bar snacks and I'm sure some drinks that were themed, but I didn't go over to that because we ate previously and it was very hot. It was very rainy. So we were kind of looking forward to go sitting in our seats.
Yeah. And it was great atmosphere. As Brie was saying, I was hearing Scott Joplin playing. We were seeing the really an enormous number of slides of these historical photos, which were really nice to see. Um, and I thought as well, really nice buy-in with Bree talking about the stickers from the local community that one of the co-sponsors of the show, you have Newsies. It's about selling newspapers. It's a local community publication that bought into the show. So of course they get to have their logo on the sticker along with a little Newsie selling a paper. And they get a little shout out before the show begins. And that's actually very nice to see because it's that nice moment of synergy. We're going to do this story about newspapers. Let's find our local media and get them bought into it.
Yeah, like the director of the whole festival came out
Hmm.
and I felt in my heart when she said, Charlottesville loves local theater. Our community loves local theater. And I mean, being there in that huge audience and like you were just talking about with the sponsorships,
Hmm.
100% true.
Yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, I think that the environment they put together, it was, the lobby was crowded. Bree popped into the theater before I did. I was running stuff to the car real quick, and I came back in. And I am used to being able to walk into a theater lobby and look over it. There's Bree. This took some searching to find Bree, just from the sheer number of people walking around.
And I was like right next to the air conditioner as well. I was like, ah. So I had not moved. I was like, all right, I'm right next to the vents. I'm trying to dry off, cool off before we have to go into a theater. And to be honest, like the theater wasn't uncomfortable. It was crowded, but I
Mhm.
didn't feel sweaty. I didn't feel cold. I mean, it was they did a great job at making you feel comfortable wherever you were in the space.
Yeah, so venue, atmosphere, top marks. What's our next pro?
All right. I said I really liked our seats. Now, these were not general admission. I picked these seats. So when Glenn and I go see movies, we tend to kind of pick, our audience on the right.
Hmm.
So it's always like seats 1 and 2 in like row B. So I kind of made a conscious decision to try to pick that choice as well.
Hmm.
And we were so lucky because we got so much actor interaction, which is my favorite. I, in fact, went to an audition recently where they said, what's something that got you into theater? And I said, when I was a little kid, my dad took me to see the touring company of Cats. And that was the first time I realized actors can come in the audience. Are you kidding me? It was such a pro for me. And this show did that a million times over. I loved it. I thought it was such a good decision. Just kind of skipping to a quick highlight of that moment. There's a burlesque singer. Her name's Meta. She's glamorous. She's
Hmm.
beautiful. She seduced the whole front row, ending on a cute little old lady. I loved it. I loved it. I said
Yes.
I was only jealous. I was like, Glenn's right on the end. Sit on Glenn's lap.
Yes, and after the show, she was like, "I should have had your seat. You should have sat where I was sitting. I would have been out there being like, yes, come over here."
I love actor audience interaction. I'm sorry, love it, love it, love it. I know some people hate it. Some people when I mentioned that in the audition, people were like, "Oh God, that's my worst nightmare." I said, "No, no, 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 no." I love being part of the show, and I think that also added to the atmosphere. So I said that was kind of my first pro. Was loved our seats, loved the audience interaction. It was so great.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking for one more second about the audience interaction, one of the things that impressed me, it was one of those moments of like, wait, where my attention is being divided here. But as she was just saying, Meta is out there seducing the audience, but they also had these massive company dance production numbers where they would actually have actors run out into the aisles and do incredibly complicated dancing in the aisles with audience on either side of them. And that was sort of like, for me, a scattered focus moment of like, should I look at the guy who's like literally dancing 3 inches away from me, or the guy who's like a foot that way, or where should I be looking? But it's also part of the incredibly impressive nature of this production they pulled off, that those were not simplified moves being done out there right next to the audience in a limited space. It was the dancers in the audience aisles were going as hard as the dancers on stage, and it was impressive, and it really helped with sort of the immersion into the show and the seeing the dedication of the performers out there.
Yeah, and like to that point, I have been in voice lessons ever since I was a little kid. I've done a lot of musicals, I've done a lot of operas. I was so impressed. We had two Newsies right next to us singing
Hmm.
different parts. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, literally, like that was one of the things I was listening for, having been an arranger of the show. And to have, if you have never sung in a show, you don't know how hard that is. You want a buddy, you want somebody singing your part with you to give you strength. So to have a baritone and a tenor singing right next to each other, two different lyrics, two different parts, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I understand that's what you're supposed to do as a professional, but at the same time, that's hard. I just don't think people realize how hard that is to be in the audience with
Hmm.
nobody singing your part, and you have to be confident that
Yeah.
I'm going to belt out this whole piece, no wavering, no hesitation.
Yeah, and on top of that, I'm going to be out there in the audience belting out my own part of the song while pulling off this absolutely ridiculously complex dance routine that, by the way, I'm doing now on a carpeted surface that has like
Great.
a 15-degree incline. That that is not easy to pull off. That's a high level of skill to be able to pull all of that off simultaneously.
Yeah. Unless you think that all the Newsies were the professional ones and that's why it was so easy.
Mhm.
No, half of them were like UVA students. And we knew this, well, for two reasons. Number one, I will
Mhm.
say I auditioned for the show and did not get in. I had like one of the worst auditions I ever had in my whole life where they're just like, "Where are you singing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm having a really hard day." And look, we're trying. And
Yes.
rightfully did not get cast, but it was still one of these things like one kid came up and he's like, "Oh, I'm late." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, this is your time. You should go." And the director came back was like, "No, I wanted to see you next. I'll see him later." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. It was his time slot, and I got nervous." So anyway, I knew this kid. He got in the show, and we were talking a little bit before as the person who was auditioning before us, and he's like, "Oh, I'm in the Great Comet," which was the UVA show of
Mhm.
that spring, and phenomenal dancer, amazing guy. Apparently, like going to med school, just like really cool kid. And he was a newsie and he did some of the most complicated flips and turns. Like, it's one of these things, like, I just don't think people give UVA enough credit as a drama program. And I know, like, I've talked to try to see, like, oh, I'd love to get involved in the MFA, blah, blah, blah. And they've lost a lot of funding. So, I mean, it's just like so amazing that some of the best newsies were local talent. We're kids that are
Hmm.
hoping to get to this level of professional touring company or on Broadway.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing we always have to remember when we're talking about community productions and community involvement in theater, is that it's when you think of community performers, myself included, you tend to think of developing, learning. That, and the fact of the matter is that in a lot of community theaters and a lot of community productions, you have people who already have just a ridiculous amount of talent and skill. Their skill is not what is developing. What is developing is their career.
Yeah. And I feel like that's always what I say is the greatest tragedy is you're going to never know some of the world's greatest performers. That's
Right.
just not how life works out. And it's no shade or fault to anybody. It is just there are too many talented people out there that have to earn a living another way, that never make their big break. And it doesn't negate their talent or make them any lesser. It's just, I always wish that everybody could have a broad audience because everybody deserves to see this amazing work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, great performers, great atmosphere. What else have we got? What's the pros? Let's keep
I
going.
think I hit everything. It was great seats, great atmosphere, loved it. Everyone was so talented, loved our local performers. High
Hmm.
energy show that hyped everyone up, beloved by all audience members. So
Yes.
short and sweet, amazing.
Yeah. All
Ready to go
right
to
then.
cons?
Let's go to cons. I
Already
feel like you've got a big one right off the top here.
got a big one. I said Bri is a Newsies purist. I didn't like the show.
Yes. So Newsies, for anybody who isn't familiar with this, and if you are familiar with this, I don't know why you're watching a theater podcast right now, but Newsies is a movie musical first and a
Yes.
theater musical second. The theater musical was based off of the movie musical.
Yes, and I love Kenny Ortega.
Mhm.
I look, if I get a different theater podcast, I will talk about Descendants all day. I love Descendants. It was not made for me. Love it. Love Kenny Ortega. But there is just something about the zeitgeist of the late 80s where they said, we're going to put all cute Hollywood boys in a movie. So most girls loved it. It was amazing. So I just love the movie. I have such a soft spot in my heart with the movie. And obviously, if you've ever seen a movie musical, we talked about Shrek, we talked about Legally Blonde. There's a lot of changes that have to happen between movie and musical, and sometimes it
Mhm.
works and sometimes it doesn't. I didn't think the changes particularly worked, but this is no fault of the director, actors, anybody doing it. It's more or less like Disney, Alan Menken. They can do whatever they want with their property. I didn't like it.
And in case any of you would like to reach out to hire Bree for a job after that,
I know.
she's right
I
there.
burned all my bridges with all the world's largest media conglomerates, but you should still
Yes.
give me a chance.
Yes. But yeah, it is, talking about that, and your experience with Newsies. We talked earlier about Brie, Hush Hush, Keep It Quiet, created her own stage version of Newsies before Disney ever adapted it to the stage, back when it was just a movie. And the movie itself, as I recall, not a box office success, something that found more of its success when it showed up on home video and people were able
Mhm.
to rent it, and it became a slumber party favorite sort of thing. Uh, the movie is from kind of an awkward era for film musicals, where there was a lot of, it's a musical, but do we want to sell it as a musical? Do we want to try to treat it like a musical? Um, and from my part, in terms of adaptation, my thing is, the real life historical event that it is based on does not have anywhere near as happy an ending as the movie gives it.
Yeah. Yep.
And that has been controversial for years with people talking about based on a true story things of like, well, you kind of made some characters more noble than they actually were in real life. You made things turn out happier than they were in real life. Is that really doing justice to their story to do that? And my take on the play, I love the play. Don't get me wrong. I think the play was stands on its own as a really good work of art on its own. But there was a point toward the end of the show where I was sitting there being like, we're really laying it on thick with the happy ending for the musical, aren't we? Because it took everything that was made happier from the movie version of the story and just tripled down on it. Was like, okay, but now what if we actually had like, I'm going to introduce this concept and then hand it over to you because Bri came up with a perfect term for this. It's like, what if we had the Disney princessification of Jack Kelly?
Yes, yes, and we don't need to rehabilitate a villain.
Yeah, it's, we're talking about, it is so, okay, so we're not just going to go, what if the newsie who is the head of the strike in the real world wasn't a guy who like disappeared with people telling stories about him taking a huge payoff from Pulitzer to hit the road and everything. What if he actually stuck with it? What if he was actually, and they fought and they won? Like that's one thing. But when you get to, and then he married, I'm going to spoil the musical. Spoilers for the musical. Before I get a naughty strike. Spoiler alert for the musical. You might want to skip ahead like a minute if you're trying to avoid spoilers for a musical that's been out since what, 2006, 2007?
Yeah, really long time.
Yes. But it is, it's not just he was a hero and he stayed with it and he really pulled it through and they won, but it was, and then he gets to marry Pulitzer's daughter, and he also gets a big cushy job at the newspaper, and his friends are all now happy and taken care of and well fed, and it's like, yeah, okay, are you gonna, oh, you're gonna give us one more good thing that happened, okay, yeah, okay, 5 or 6 layers is a little bit thick.
Right. So it's like if there was already a Disneyfication of the Children's Crusade, which was Newsies, the movie, there was a Disney Plusification of
Yes.
Disney Newsies, the musical.
Yes.
He used Disney's own term. I didn't come up with Disney Plus. That was Disney. So,
Yes.
So anyway, so I started there. I said, I can't fault the director or anybody else. Like, it was a fantastic show. And I think if I just did not care so much about the original story and the original stuff, like, I just remember, like, I turned to Glenn at intermission and I was like, Catherine is Bill Pullman. I was like, oh no. I was like, this is a terrible rewrite for me. So obviously, I always tell people, like, you should not do things for me. I am clearly in a house in Central Virginia. I am not a big movie maker in Hollywood, but still, for me, no, ma'am, no, sir. It was a great show. I'd probably see it again. It was fun, but I'm gonna watch the movie until my little spools on the VHS wear out.
Yes, and if you have strong feelings and complaints about what Bri just said, please feel free to address those complaints to Kenny.Ortega at...
No, I mean, there are just some musical theater things that I will always be beloved to me. Kenny Ortega, one of them. Mark Shaman, another one. Like, just really has kind of like a strong musical theater campy vibe that I just really dig. So
yeah,
also, I really love Alan Menken, but there's so many things that I was like, this could have gone to Gallivant. Why did it go to Newsies?
That honestly was my thought because Bri and I, big fans of Gallivant. We watched it when it was actually on the air playing, like every week we watched the new episode. And I have always felt that Gallivant was the place that Alan Menken brought a lot of his songs that had been rejected from other movies as, well, that's a little bit goofier than we were expecting, Alan. And he's like, okay. and he, played them at parties for years and then turned them into a TV musical. And I did feel like a lot of the musical numbers, not necessarily the too goofy, but I felt like a lot of the musical numbers from the play that weren't in the movie may have been the parts where Alan Menken was told, we're not sure if we can sell a live action musical, so we're cutting back on the number of songs in the movie. And he just kept them in his back pocket until they decided to go to Broadway.
Yeah. And that was the thing is like, I mean, like I said, when we see a fantastic show, we get even more nitpicky. That is our right, because you're
Yes.
doing great. You're being amazing. So I get to sit here and be nitpicky. And I'm not going to spend too much time nitpicking the show. But I mean, we had these additions of these amazing female characters. And like I said, why couldn't Meta have a second song? Why couldn't Catherine have a better song that dealt with writing instead of watching? She's doing the thing. She's being active. She's a writer. Why is it watch what happens? Like, no,
Yeah.
I don't like that's a great song, but it shouldn't have gone to her. The reason why I think it kind of went to her was because the reprise really needed Watch What Happens to be her
Yeah.
song. So
Yeah.
anyway, I was like, we'll kind of gloss over that because I have a few other things to talk about.
Sure.
But I think we talked about kind of our big heavy hitters. It's like,
Yeah.
we loved the show. It's just I gotta wish that the show was my show, because there's nothing more enamored of a 15-year-old girl and her favorite piece of media, right? It's like this
Yes.
is how we get Twilight sequels, whatever. Anyway, but please consider female musical theater directors, writers. I was like,
Yes.
I love Jonathan Larson. I love Lin-Manuel Miranda. I would like to see more people like me. It doesn't have to be me specifically. I would love it if so. But anyway, I'm getting distracted with self-promotion. I deserve an Audie at this point.
Right. And one more thing about socialism as a public good. No, let's move on.
Yes. So anyway, just technical issues, and we did see opening night. So I will fully admit that technical issues will always be a problem on opening night. It's the first time it has been performed in front of a live studio audience, as it were. So just two little things. The sound cut in and out quite a bit. And I know that they were kind of fighting with probably the humidity, probably the rain, probably the heat. But I would have liked full sound. I miss seeing the orchestra. I know the orchestra, I think they said, was behind the skyline. They definitely were having a live orchestra. And so there was maybe this disconnect because we were having technical issues of sometimes people weren't on rhythm while singing. So, I mean, did not really disrupt my enjoyment, just like some things that I would have maybe liked a little more to kind of solve these things. And then I said there was a really scary moment where somebody nearly fell off of a moving platform during the song King of New York, where I was like, but the actors are really tuned and they saved the day. But literally I saw an actor moving on the platform and suddenly jerked to the left. And I was like, oh God, we're all going to watch them die. And luckily Newsies swooped up and held them up, and it was great. And I said, I don't think anybody else noticed it, but because I was already being, I'm a little high nitpicky horse, I noticed it. And I think my final quick little con of part of just these technical things. Girl, I wanted some fan service. I was like, we had some cute little burlesque girls. We had boys without their shirts on. I realized this is not everybody's cup of tea, but we kept saying more.
Yeah.
Love it more.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that we were discussing. There's a there's a moment that is kind of a key plot moment that a character mentions later, where after the show, Bri was like, "So, was I asleep? What happened?" Because suddenly she's referring to this thing, and I'm like, "When did she find out about that?" And I said she found out about it during the Burlesque House, like the second musical number in the Burlesque House. And it was all done as stage action, no dialogue. And Bri was like, "Oh, I was watching The Pretty Girls." And it's like, well, yeah, the only reason I caught it.
You have sequin tights. I'm going to watch it.
The only reason that I caught it was because I spent 15 seconds longer before I was like, oh, there are pretty girls. I should be watching The Pretty Girls. And I have a background in studying burlesque and writing burlesque and performing, not not in the sequins and with the fans, but performing the baggy pants comedy work and everything like that. That when Meta came out and did her routine, phenomenal, like burlesque song. Uh, and then two more women come out and they're dressed up in wonderful costumes and they start doing a song. And then suddenly their voices drop out and up comes dialogue from another spot on the set while they're still doing the dance for their number downstage. And I was sitting there watching it being like, oh, but I wanted a second burlesque number. You know, that you started a second burlesque number. I want to see the second burlesque number, but
Yeah.
the show is
Yeah.
what it is, you know?
Yeah, right. And that was the thing is I said I love the new song they wrote for Meta, but I wanted her song from the movie in there because they do have her introduction with the new song. And maybe it was cut, you know, that's kind of the rough things is sometimes you have to kill off your darlings in musical theater. But I was like, you know, they had the Newsies rally, which was a part of the movie, but she had a song. I wanted a
Yeah.
second burlesque song too. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're greedy. We want that fan service. Nom 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 nom.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of my nitpicks. I was like, obviously, nothing else was really wrong with the show. Phenomenal actors, phenomenal singers, amazing
Yeah.
dancers. Like literally, I am so shocked that like Roots Bowls are not unavailable because they need to fuel all those carb moments. They have been working hard. They are on point. They are consistent. I mean, it was just phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. But at the end of the day, you know, I hate to keep harping on it. I said really expensive. But am I going to tell you to go see the movie? Show? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It was really expensive, but really worth it. Could be hard for individuals to come up with the dough. However, you know, looking into it a little bit, there are a lot of giveaways being offered. I think they currently have a giveaway for a family of 4 seat ticket pack. And then also something that was really lovely is from filling out the you know, my feedback, I got a 20% off coupon that I could use for a future show or give it to somebody else. So I said, I do think that they recognize that this is a problem. And even though like they do need to pay for that phenomenal marketing, they do need to pay for the phenomenal directing, the phenomenal choreography, the phenomenal actors, the technicians. They have to pay for all that. We understand the price point, but it's one of these things that like, I just think that a lot of people are going to look at that and you know, we've talked about salaries being depressed and like, you know, you're just looking at everything. And I will be honest, I so wanted to be a hater. I wanted to say, it's not worth it. Joey's the only good thing about it. Meh, meh, meh. I didn't get cast. I'm a human. I like to just be fully transparent about this. But it is one of these things that is like for $100, I got my $100 worth and more. Parking was free, very convenient, easy to get there, easy to see. Everything was just so high level, so high caliber that I can't say it's not worth it. It's 100% worth it. And I think, Glenn, you had an excellent point. It'd be worth it at twice the price as well. And so it is really, really hard to sit there and say, yeah, please go. If you have the money, go. But yeah, I mean, like, I think if all of us are doing a bit better, if all of us had all this disposable income and didn't need to use it on repairing cars or feeding children or other stuff, yeah, take your time. Maybe save up a couple of date nights, but it was expensive and it was worth it.
Yes. The two are not mutually exclusive. Something can be expensive and worth it.
Yeah. So I hope that maybe some of those, you know, ticket discount programs get out there. I hope that maybe a lot of people who are local and participating in stuff, maybe there can be groups with a discount. Like I do think that they are trying to work with the system because I do remember from a few years ago, like I don't think cabaret was that expensive. You know, I was like, I feel like it is just due to the fact that they hired so many people and that they put so much focus into really bringing Broadway here to Charlottesville. Like, yeah, it was amazing. We loved it. We had such a good night. And 99% of my complaints on the way home is, well, I missed this about the movie. And if it wasn't 11 p.m., I would go watch the movie. But I'm old and tired.
Yes.
So do you have anything else to add before we head on out?
Oh man, let me think. We covered a whole lot of good pros, good stuff. I think I do need to shout out as a pro. I know we're into the con section now, but as a pro, I do need to specifically call out the choreography on this show because this was an amazing level of choreography. This was this was Broadway production level choreography for a Central Virginia town, Virginia Theater Festival. And that is fantastic. That the choreography alone, it's like, well, that's where the $100 goes, doesn't it? That's what that
Yeah.
$100 gets you.
I know. I was so tempted to make a little Instagram reel, basically being like, me at the office after seeing Newsies. Paper. Because you do walk away wanting to sing and dance. You want to learn the choreography. And that's been like also part of their heavy marketing thing
Yeah.
is teaching people the choreography. Like I think I saw on like Channel 19, they taught the reporter how to do that. So I was like, I mean, that is the thing that hooks you and that like connects you to it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's one thing that I wanted to call out particularly because I know we had talked about the dancing before, but I don't think it got its own separate shout out. So the choreography 100% is a massive highlight in the show.
Yeah. So go see it. Like I said, I don't think we're going to have too many. I don't go see it. I mean, I think we would just want to tell you what it's all about before you spend your money. And this is one of the things that you got to be careful with your pennies. You got to be careful with your dollars. And, you know, if you could pull together the funds, absolutely go see it. We loved it.
Yes. All right. So, and we're going to wrap things up now, I'm thinking.
Yeah. So again, you know what we like. You know what I like. Theater. And we're going to end it here for now. We got a couple more episodes coming your way. We're seeing a show tonight, so we got to run.
Yeah.
But we hope to kind of tell you a little bit more about local theater, maybe beyond Charlottesville. Our first few have only been in the confines of our town, and now we are making an adventure to Richmond.
Yes.
And we'll let you know what that is because we got to take additional considerations, parking, gas. You know, we all know what gas prices are these days.
So make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. If you leave us a good review anywhere that they do reviews for podcasts, that's well appreciated.
Yeah, and share with your friends, family, everybody else who's thinking about going out to theaters. We're trying to get these out pretty quickly after we see the shows so that there's still plenty of time for you to go see them if you're interested.
Yes. All right then. Well, until next time. Bye.